Life in the UK Test. Top 100 challenging questions and answers explained. Are you preparing for the Life in the UK Test? This video is your immediate Life in the UK mock exam compilation, featuring mock tests questions, all with accurate answers, clear explanations, and updated facts based on the official Life in the UK Handbook. This video covering the values and principles of the UK. What is the UK? A long and illustrious history. A modern, thriving society. The UK government, the law and your role. Perfect for British citizenship applicants, ILR candidates, or anyone preparing for the Life in the UK Test. Don't forget to like this video if it helps you study. Comment your score or which mock test was the hardest. Subscribe for more Life in the UK Test practice, mock exams, and chapter-by-chapter summaries. Boost your confidence, test your knowledge, and get ready to pass your Life in the UK Test on the first attempt. Let's start. Who is responsible for crime and immigration? Foreign Secretary. Chancellor of the Exchequer. Secretary of State. Home Secretary. Home Secretary is responsible for crime, policing and immigration. Clans lost a lot of their power and influence after which event? The Crimean War. The Battle of Culloden. The Battle of Trafalgar. The Battle of Agincourt. Battle of Culloden. The clans lost a lot of their power and influence after the Battle of Culloden, in 1746. Chieftains became landlords if they had the favour of the English king, and clansmen became tenants who had to pay for the land they used. What destroyed London in year 1666? Fire. Nuclear plant. Plague. Water. Fire. During Charles II's reign, in 1665, there was a major outbreak of plague in London. Thousands of people died, especially in poorer areas. The following year, a great fire destroyed much of the city, including many churches and St. Paul's Cathedral. Which two of the following islands are known as Crown dependencies? Ceylon. The Isle of Man. The Channel Islands. Ireland. There are also several islands which are closely linked with the UK but are not part of it, the Channel Islands and the Isle of Man. These have their own governments and are called Crown dependencies. Which two of the following are examples of criminal law? Selling tobacco to anyone under the age of 18. Discrimination in the workplace. Disputes about faulty goods. Racial crime. Selling tobacco to anyone under the age of 18 and racial crime. Examples of criminal laws are carrying a weapon, selling or buying illegal drugs, racial crime, selling tobacco, smoking in public places, buying alcohol, drinking in public. Who defeated Napoleon at the Battle of Waterloo? Henry VII. Louis XIV. Nelson. The Duke of Wellington. The Duke of Wellington. In 1815, the French wars ended with the defeat of the Emperor Napoleon by the Duke of Wellington at the Battle of Waterloo. The medieval period is referred to the period after the Norman conquest up until what year? In 1385. In 1455. In 1485. In 1400. The period after the Norman conquest up until about 1485 is called the Middle Ages, or the medieval period. It was a time of almost constant war. Where are the youth cases heard in Scotland? Sheriff Court. There is a children's hearing system. Youth Court. Crown Court. In Scotland, a system called the Children's Hearing System is used to deal with children and young people who have committed an offence. Who invented the World Wide Web? James Goodfellow. Florence Nightingale. Sir Tim Berners-Lee. Alexander Fleming. World Wide Web was invented by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, 1955, who is British. Information was successfully transferred via the web for the first time on the 25th of December 1990. When is St. Patrick's Day? 30th of November. 1st of March. 17th of March. 23rd of April. Seventeenth of March. England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland each have a national saint, called a patron saint. Each saint has a special day. The 1st of March, St. David's Day, Wales, 17 March, St. Patrick's Day, Northern Ireland, the 23rd of April, St. George's Day, England, the 30th of November, St. Andrew's Day, Scotland. What created the Kingdom of Great Britain in 1707? The Bill of Rights. The Act of Union. The Act of Government of Wales. The Kingdom Act. The Act of Union, known as the Treaty of Union in Scotland, was agreed in 1707, creating the Kingdom of Great Britain. In which year did the UK join the European Union, EU? In 1953. In 1973. In 1957. In 1949. In 1973. The European Union, EU, originally called the European Economic Community, EEC, was set up by 6 Western European countries, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg and the Netherlands, who signed the Treaty of Rome on the 25th of March 1957. The UK originally decided not to join this group, but it became a member in 1973. After UK's Brexit vote, there are now 27 EU member states. Which of the devolved administrations has been suspended a few times? Northern Ireland Assembly. Scottish Parliament. Welsh Assembly. Westminster. Northern Ireland Assembly. There has been a Welsh Assembly and a Scottish Parliament since 1999. There is a Northern Ireland Assembly, although this has been suspended on a few occasions. The Proms is an 8-week summer season of what? Heavy metal music. Classic pop music. Orchestral classical music. Underground hip-hop music. Orchestral classical music. The Proms is an 8-week summer season of orchestral, or solo instrumental, classical music that takes place in various venues, including the Royal Albert Hall in London. It has been organised by the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, since 1927. The Last Night of the Proms is the most well-known concert and, along with others in the series, is broadcast on television. How many crosses does the Union flag have? 4, 5, 2, 3. The Union flag consists of 3 crosses. The Cross of St. George, patron saint of England, is a red cross on a white ground. The Cross of St. Andrew, patron saint of Scotland, is a diagonal white cross on a blue ground. The Cross of St. Patrick, patron saint of Ireland, is a diagonal red cross on a white ground. Where in Scotland is known as the home of golf? Inverness, St. Andrews, Edinburgh, Glasgow. St. Andrews. Game of golf can be traced back to 15th century Scotland. It is a popular sport played socially as well as professionally. There are public and private golf courses all over the UK. St. Andrews in Scotland is known as the home of golf. What's the monarch's yearly parliamentary speech for? Set out the government's legislative plans for the next year. Credit distinguished politicians and policymakers. Give advice to the general public on upcoming legislations. Summarize all the last year's policies. Set out the government's legislative plans for the next year. The King has important ceremonial roles, such as the opening of the new parliamentary session each year. On this occasion, the monarch makes a speech which summarizes the government's policies for the year ahead. All acts of parliament are made in his name. How many American colonies declared their independence in 1776? 13. 5. 7. 17. In 1776, 13 American colonies declared their independence, stating that people had a right to establish their own governments. The colonists eventually defeated the British Army and Britain recognized the colony's independence in 1783. Who chairs the debates in the House of Commons? The Prime Minister, the Speaker, the Shadow Minister, the Judge. The Speaker. Debates in the House of Commons are chaired by the Speaker. This person is the chief officer of the House of Commons. The Speaker is neutral and does not represent a political party, even though he or she is an MP, represents a constituency and deals with constituents' problems like any other MP. The Speaker is chosen by other MPs in a secret ballot. What's the objective of the Commonwealth? Allow visa-free migration across the member states. Achieve goals in democracy and development. Promote free trade. Promote peace across the world. Achieve goals in democracy and development. The Commonwealth is an association of countries that support each other and work together towards shared goals in democracy and development. Most member states were once part of the British Empire, although a few countries which were not have also joined. Where did the ancestors of the first farmers come from? North Europe, Northeast Europe, Southeast Europe, Northwest Europe. The first farmers came to Britain 6,000 years ago. The ancestors of these first farmers probably came from Southeast Europe. Which two of the following are major horse racing events in the UK? Royal Ascot, the Open Championship, Six Nations Championship, Scottish Grand National. Royal Ascot and Scottish Grand National. Famous horse racing events include Royal Ascot, a 5-day race meeting in Berkshire attended by members of the royal family, the Grand National at Aintree near Liverpool, and the Scottish Grand National at Ayr. There is a National Horse Racing Museum in Newmarket, Suffolk. Beefeaters, who tell visitors about the building's history, are associated with which of these? The Tower of London, Big Ben, Edinburgh Castle, UNESCO. The Tower of London was first built by William the Conqueror after he became king in 1066. Tours are given by the yeoman warders, also known as beefeaters, who tell visitors about the building's history. People can also see the crown jewels there. Who led a team of scientists to develop the atomic bomb? Dylan Thomas, Sir John Lavoie, Ernest Rutherford, Isaac Newton. Scientists led by Ernest Rutherford, working at Manchester and then Cambridge University, were the first to split the atom and took part in the Manhattan Project in the United States, which developed the atomic bomb. When were the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms established in England? By AD 500. By AD 410. By AD 600. By AD 550. By about AD 600, Anglo-Saxon kingdoms were established in Britain. These kingdoms were mainly in what is now England. Who makes a speech which summarizes the government's policies for the year ahead? The Cabinet, the Prime Minister, the Monarch, local authorities. The monarch, King Charles III, has important ceremonial roles, such as the opening of the new parliamentary session each year. On this occasion, the monarch makes a speech which summarizes the government's policies for the year ahead. All acts of parliament are made in his name. What must the police officer tell you if you get arrested? To put your arms in the air. Ask about your background. The reason for your arrest. To follow his instructions. The reason for your arrest. A police officer will tell you the reason for your arrest and you will be able to seek legal advice. Which is a famous area in London for theatres? East End, the City, South End, West End. West End. There are theatres in most towns and cities throughout the UK, ranging from the large to the small. They are an important part of local communities and often show both professional and amateur productions. London's West End, also known as Theatreland, is particularly well known. The Mousetrap, a murder mystery play by Dame Agatha Christie, has been running in the West End since 1952 and has had the longest initial run of any show in history. Which of the events is the bombing of English cities by the Germans? The Dunkirk Spirit, D-Day, the Battle of Britain, the Blitz. The Blitz was the German Air Force bombing London and other British cities at nighttime. The phrase, the Blitz spirit, is still used today to describe Britons pulling together in the face of adversity. On which two occasions will there be a fresh election, called a by-election, in MP's constituency? Goes abroad. Dies. Gets ill. Resigns. Dies or resigns. MPs are elected at a general election, which is held at least every 5 years. If an MP dies or resigns, there will be a fresh election, called a by-election, in his or her constituency. MPs are elected through a system called first past the post. Which admiral's column is in Trafalgar Square, London? Nelson. Charles I. Christopher Wren. Francis Drake. Nelson. Britain's navy fought against combined French and Spanish fleets, winning the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. Admiral Nelson was in charge of the British fleet at Trafalgar and was killed in the battle. Nelson's column in Trafalgar Square, London, is a monument to him. His ship, HMS Victory, can be visited in Portsmouth. What does the Turner Prize celebrate? The best play. Contemporary art. The best song. The best album. Contemporary art. The Turner Prize was established in 1984 and celebrates contemporary art. What percentage of the total population lives in Scotland? 2%. 14%. 21%. 8%. The population is very unequally distributed over the 4 parts of the UK. England more or less consistently makes up 84% of the total population, Wales around 5%, Scotland just over 8% and Northern Ireland less than 3%. Who is responsible for subjects such as education, health and defence? Foreign Secretary. Home Secretary. Chancellor of the Exchequer. Secretary of State. Secretaries of State are responsible for subjects such as education, health and defence. How is the Speaker elected? The monarch appoints the Speaker. The Archbishop of Canterbury chooses the Speaker. The PM chooses the Speaker. Fellow MPs choose the Speaker. Fellow MPs choose the Speaker. Debates in the House of Commons are chaired by the Speaker. This person is the Chief Officer of the House of Commons. The Speaker is neutral and does not represent a political party, even though he or she is an MP, represents a constituency and deals with constituents' problems like any other MP. The Speaker is chosen by other MPs in a secret ballot. The Victoria Cross Medal was introduced during which war? The Crimean War. The Second World War. The First World War. The 100 Years' War. The Crimean War. Queen Victoria introduced the Victoria Cross Medal during the Crimean War. It honours acts of valour by soldiers. For how long did England remain a republic? 14 years. 11 years. 10 years. 12 years. Britain had been a republic for 11 years. What did the Romans introduce to Britain? Christianity. New machinery. New food and cloth. New plants and animals. New plants and animals. The Romans remained in Britain for 400 years. They built roads and public buildings, created a structure of law, and introduced new plants and animals. Who was Henry Purcell? An actor. A poet. A musician. A gardener. A musician. Henry Purcell was the organist at Westminster Abbey. He wrote church music and operas. Which TWO houses formed the House of Tudor? House of Commons. House of York. House of Lancaster. House of Lords. King Richard III of the House of York was killed in the battle, and Henry Tudor, the leader of the House of Lancaster, became King Henry VII. Henry then married King Richard's niece, Elizabeth of York, and united the two families. Henry was the first king of the House of Tudor. The symbol of the House of Tudor was a red rose with a white rose inside it as a sign that which flag has a white cross on a blue background? Irish. Welsh. English. Scottish. Scottish flag has a white cross on a blue background because St. Andrew was the patron saint of Scotland. What is the Church of England known as in Scotland and the US? The State Church. The Anglican Church. The Episcopal Church. The Catholic Church. The Episcopal Church. The official church of the state is the Church of England, is called the Episcopal Church in Scotland and the United States. It is a Protestant church. What is the official report that contains everything said in Parliament called? Hansard. The Government Report. The Government Press. The Domesday Book. Hansard. Proceedings in Parliament are broadcast on television and published in official reports called Hansard. Which monarch was executed after the English Civil War? James I. Charles I. Charles II. Richard II. Charles I was tried and executed in 1649. When was the Scottish Parliament formed? In 1999. In 1991. In 1989. In 1978. In 1999. Since 1997, some powers have been devolved from the central government to give people in Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland more control over matters that directly affect them. There has been a Welsh Assembly and a Scottish Parliament since 1999. During the Middle Ages, which TWO wars were fought abroad? The War of the Roses. Battle of Hastings. 100 Years' War. Crusaders. Crusaders and 100 Years' War. During the Middle Ages, the English kings also fought a number of wars abroad. Many knights took part in the Crusades, in which European Christians fought for control of the Holy Land. English kings also fought a long war with France, called the 100 Years' War, even though it actually lasted 116 years. What can schools do to raise money? Organize events. Ask parents for money. Ask the local council for extra funding. Reduce teachers' wages. Organize events. Many schools organize events to raise money for extra equipment or out-of-school activities. Activities might include book sales, toy sales, or bringing food to sell. How long is Hanukkah celebrated for? 8 days. 9 days. 10 days. 7 days. Days. Hanukkah is in November or December and is celebrated for 8 days. It is to remember the Jews' struggle for religious freedom. On each day of the festival a candle is lit on a stand of 8 candles, called a menorah, to remember the story of the festival, where all that should have lasted only a day did so for 8. What is the period after the Norman conquest up until 1485 called? The Iron Age. The Bronze Age. The Stone Age. The Middle Ages. The Middle Ages. The period after the Norman conquest up until about 1485 is called the Middle Ages or the medieval period. It was a time of almost constant war. What are 2 of the roles of the House of Lords? Check laws that have been passed to ensure that they are fit for purpose. Scrutinize and comment on what the government is doing. Represent everyone in their constituency. Suggest amendments or propose new laws, which are then discussed by the MPs. Check laws that have been passed to ensure that they are fit for purpose and suggest amendments or propose new laws, which are then discussed by the MPs. The House of Lords can suggest amendments or propose new laws, which are then discussed by MPs. It checks laws that have been passed by the House of Commons to ensure they are fit for purpose. It also holds the government to account to make sure that it is working in the best interests of the people. Who set up the first formal anti-slavery campaigns? Roundheads. The Quakers. Cavaliers. Jacobites. The first formal anti-slavery groups were set up by the Quakers in the late 1700s, and they petitioned Parliament to ban the practice. Which Prime Minister launched the NHS in 1948? Winston Churchill. Harold Macmillan. Clement Attlee. Anthony Eden. Clement Attlee's post-war government introduced the NHS in 1948. Which movement campaigned for the women's rights? Bishops. Quakers. Chartists. Suffragettes. Suffragettes. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, an increasing number of women campaigned and demonstrated for greater rights and, in particular, the right to vote. They formed the women's suffrage movement and became known as suffragettes. Who appoints the government, which most people have chosen in a democratic election? The Prime Minister. The House of Commons. The House of Lords. The monarch. The monarch does not rule the country but appoints the government, which the people have chosen in a democratic election. The monarch invites the leader of the party with the largest number of MPs, or the leader of a coalition between more than one party, to become the Prime Minister. Which TWO of these are English Civil War battles? Agincourt, Bannockburn, Marston Moor, Naseby. During the Civil War, the King's army was defeated at the battles of Marston Moor and Naseby. By 1646, it was clear that Parliament had won the war. Charles was held prisoner by the Parliamentary Army. He was still unwilling to reach any agreement with Parliament, and in 1649 he was executed. Which two did the Romans establish in Britain? Introduced new plants and animals. Created a structure of law. Introduced constitutional monarchy. Introduced basic democracy. Introduced new plants and animals and created a structure of law. The Romans remained in Britain for 400 years. They built roads and public buildings, created a structure of law, and introduced new plants and animals. What is the main purpose of the opposition? To challenge the government. To change laws. To represent the people of the UK. To participate in public debates. To challenge the government. The opposition form the shadow cabinet, and their role is to challenge the government and put forward alternative policies. When walking your dog in a public place, what must you ensure? That your dog does not come into contact with other dogs. That your dog wears a special dog coat. That your dog wears a collar showing the name and address of the owner. That your dog never stays more than 3 meters away from you. That your dog wears a collar showing the name and address of the owner. A lot of people in the UK have pets such as cats or dogs. They might have them for company or because they enjoy looking after them. It is against the law to treat a pet cruelly or to neglect it. All dogs in public places must wear a collar showing the name and address of the owner. The owner is responsible for keeping the dog under control and for cleaning up after the animal in a public place. What is the King James Bible? The first English Bible. A new translation into English. The Protestant version. The correct version. One achievement of King James' reign was a new translation of the Bible into English. This translation is known as the King James Version or the Authorized Version. It was not the first English Bible but is a version which continues to be used in many Protestant churches today. In which country was Charles II residing before he was invited to England by the Parliament? Germany, Netherlands, France, Ireland. Netherlands. In May 1660, Parliament invited Charles II to come back from exile in the Netherlands. He was crowned King Charles II of England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. How old was the Queen of Scotland, Mary Stuart, when her father died and she became Queen? 1 year. 7 years. 1 week. 1 month. 1 week. The Queen of Scotland, Mary Stuart, often now called Mary, Queen of Scots, was a Catholic. She was only a week old when her father died and she became queen. What is the Church of England usually known as in other countries? The Episcopal Church, the State Church, the Great Church, the Anglican Church. Anglican Church. The official church of the state is the Church of England, called the Anglican Church in other countries and the Episcopal Church in Scotland and the United States. Which two are safe places to go and stay in for anyone facing domestic violence? Refuge, shelter, community centre, care home. Refuge and shelter. It is important for anyone facing domestic violence to get help as soon as possible. A solicitor or the Citizens Advice Bureau can explain the available options. In some areas there are safe places to go and stay in, called refuges or shelters. Where can you find Boudica, the Queen of the Iceni statue? Portsmouth, London, Suffolk, Kent. In London. One of the tribal leaders who fought against the Romans was Boudica, the Queen of the Iceni in what is now eastern England. She is still remembered today and there is a statue of her on Westminster Bridge in London, near the Houses of Parliament. What is Diwali often called? The Festival of the Sun, the Festival of Love, the Festival of Fire, the Festival of Lights. The Festival of Lights. Diwali normally falls in October or November and lasts for 5 days. It is often called the Festival of Lights. It is celebrated by Hindus and Sikhs. It celebrates the victory of good over evil and the gaining of knowledge. There are different stories about how the festival came about. There is a famous celebration of Diwali in Leicester. Who established the Church of England? Edward II, Henry VIII, Charles II, the Pope. Henry VIII. To divorce his first wife, Henry needed the approval of the Pope. When the Pope refused, Henry established the Church of England. In this new church, the king, not the Pope, would have the power to appoint bishops and order how people should worship. Who can nominate life peers? Select 2. The monarchy. Leaders of other main political parties. The Prime Minister. The Speaker. Leaders of other main political parties and the Prime Minister. Since 1958, the Prime Minister has had the power to nominate peers just for their own lifetime. These are called life peers. Life peers are appointed by the monarch on the advice of the Prime Minister. They also include people nominated by the leaders of the other main political parties or by an independent appointments commission for non-party peers. Children's hearing system is used in which country? Scotland, Wales, England, Northern Ireland. Scotland. In Scotland, a system called the Children's Hearing System is used to deal with children and young people who have committed an offence. Northern Ireland has a system of youth conferencing to consider how a child should be dealt with when they have committed an offence. What did the Bill of Rights confirm? Parliament's increased power. Kings increased power. Kings can administer justice. Kings can collect taxes. Parliament's increased power. The Bill of Rights, 1689, confirmed the rights of Parliament and the limits of the King's power. What should you do to make a complaint about the police? Complain to the police force directly. Write a complaint letter to the House of Commons. Write to your MP. Write to the Chief Constable of the police force. Write to the Chief Constable of the police force. Anyone can make a complaint about the police by going to a police station or writing to the Chief Constable of the police force involved. Complaints can also be made to an independent body, the Independent Police Complaints Commission in England and Wales, the Police Complaints Commissioner for Scotland, or the Police Ombudsman for Northern Ireland. What were the Canterbury Tales about? Canterbury life. The stories people told each other. Canterbury Tales about the King. People fighter near Canterbury. The stories people told each other. In the years leading up to 1400, Geoffrey Chaucer wrote a series of poems in English about a group of people going to Canterbury on a pilgrimage. The people decided to tell each other stories on the journey, and the poems describe the travelers and some of the stories they told. This collection of poems is called the Canterbury Tales. Who was the first Archbishop of Canterbury? St. George. St. Augustine. St. Patrick. St. Columba. St. Augustine. Missionaries from Ireland spread the religion in the north. The most famous of these was St. Patrick, who would become the patron saint of Ireland, and St. Columba, who founded a monastery on the island of Iona, off the coast of what is now Scotland. St. Augustine led missionaries from Rome, who spread Christianity in the south. St. Augustine became the first Archbishop of Canterbury. Where are the minor criminal cases dealt with in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland? High Court. Crown Court. Justice of the Peace Court. Magistrates' Court. Magistrates' Court. In England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, most minor criminal cases are dealt with in a magistrates' court. In Scotland, minor criminal offences go to a Justice of the Peace Court. In which year was there a major outbreak of plague in London? In 1465. In 1565. In 1665. In 1765. During Charles II's reign, in 1665, there was a major outbreak of plague in London. Thousands of people died, especially in poorer areas. The following year, a great fire destroyed much of the city, including many churches and St. Paul's Cathedral. How long did the 100 Years' War last for? 100 years. 97 years. 116 years. 108 years. $116. English kings fought a long war with France, called the 100 Years' War, even though it actually lasted 116 years. One of the most famous battles of the Hundred Years' War was the Battle of Agincourt in 1415, where King Henry V's vastly outnumbered English army defeated the French. The English left France in the 1450s. When did newspapers begin to operate without a government license? In 1695. In 1708. In 1712. In 1681. From 1695. This was also an important time for the development of a free press, newspapers and other publications which are not controlled by the government. From 1695, newspapers were allowed to operate without a government license. Increasing numbers of newspapers began to be published. Haggis is a traditional food of which country? Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales. Scotland's food is haggis, a sheep's stomach stuffed with offal, suet, onions, and oatmeal. How often do the ministers meet to discuss important issues? Daily, monthly, yearly, weekly. Weekly. Ministers form the cabinet, a committee which usually meets weekly and makes important decisions about government policy. Many of these decisions have to be debated or approved by Parliament. Big Ben was named Elizabeth Tower in honor of Queen Elizabeth I. True or false? False. Big Ben is the nickname for the Great Bell of the clock at the Houses of Parliament in London. Many people call the clock Big Ben as well. The clock is over 150 years old and is a popular tourist attraction. The clock tower is named Elizabeth Tower in honor of Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee in 2012. Which court deals with the most serious cases in Scotland? Sheriff Court, High Court, Justice of the Peace Court, Crown Court. High Court. The most serious cases in Scotland, such as murder, are heard at a High Court with a judge and jury. What was the main crop in Ireland in the 19th century? Tomato, potato, cucumber, wheat. Potato. In the 19th century, many people in Ireland depended on potatoes as a large part of their diet. In the middle of the century the potato crop failed, and Ireland suffered a famine. 1 million people died from disease and starvation. Under which king did the people unite to defeat the Vikings? King William, King Alfred the Great, Henry I, Harold. King Alfred the Great. The Anglo-Saxon kingdoms in England united under King Alfred the Great, who defeated the Vikings. When did Queen Elizabeth II celebrate her Diamond Jubilee? In 2013. In 2011. In 2012. In 2010. In 2012. Big Ben Tower is named Elizabeth Tower in honor of Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee in 2012. What was the system of land ownership used by the Normans known as? The Magna Carta. Democracy. Noble land. Feudalism. Feudalism. The Normans used a system of land ownership known as feudalism. The king gave land to his lords in return for help in war. Landowners had to send certain numbers of men to serve in the army. Some peasants had their own land but most were serfs. On what day does Lent begin? Shrove Tuesday. Ash Wednesday. Good Friday. Pancake Day. Shrove Tuesday. The 40 days before Easter are known as Lent. It is a time when Christians take time to reflect and prepare for Easter. Traditionally, people would fast during this period, and today many people will give something up, like a favorite food. The day before Lent starts is called Shrove Tuesday, or Pancake Day. Lent begins on Ash Wednesday. Who appoints the members of the cabinet? The people of the UK. The Speaker. The Monarch. The Prime Minister. The Prime Minister appoints about 20 senior MPs to become ministers in charge of departments which together form the cabinet. Which tribes invaded Britain after the Romans had left? The Jutes and the Anglo-Saxons. The Vikings. The Normans. The Celtics. The Roman army left Britain in AD 410 to defend other parts of the Roman Empire and never returned. Britain was again invaded by tribes from northern Europe, the Jutes, the Angles, and the Saxons. Select two famous Paralympians. Jessica Ennis. Ellie Simmonds. Baroness Tanni Grey-Thompson. Dame Ellen MacArthur. Ellie Simmonds and Baroness Tanni Grey-Thompson. Ellie Simmonds is a Paralympian who won gold medals for swimming at the 2008 and 2012 Paralympic Games and holds a number of world records. She was the youngest member of the British team at the 2008 Games. Baroness Tanni Grey-Thompson is an athlete who uses a wheelchair and won 16 Paralympic medals, including 11 gold medals, in races over 5 Paralympic Games. She won the London Marathon 6 times and broke a total of 30 world records. How many members does a jury have in Scotland? 21. 12. 15. 18. A jury is made up of members of the public chosen at random from the local electoral register. See the electoral register. In England, Wales, and Northern Ireland a jury has 12 members, and in Scotland a jury has 15 members. Which political party is still known as the Tories? Conservative. Liberal Democrats. Labour. British National Party. Conservative. The modern Conservative Party is still sometimes referred to as the Tories. Where are the more serious civil cases dealt with in Scotland? Peace Courts. High Court. Court of Session in Edinburgh. Sheriff Court. Court of Session in Edinburgh. More serious civil cases, for example, when a large amount of compensation is being claimed, are dealt with in the High Court in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. In Scotland, they are dealt with in the Court of Session in Edinburgh. What were the refugees that came from France called? Huguenots, Jacobites, Cavaliers, Roundheads. Huguenots. Between 1680 and 1720 many refugees called Huguenots came from France. They were Protestants and had been persecuted for their religion. When was the Parliament of Northern Ireland first established? In 1937. In 1986. In 1999. In 1922. In 1972. A Northern Ireland Parliament was established in 1922, when Ireland was divided, but it was abolished in 1972, shortly after the Troubles broke out in 1969. The Northern Ireland Assembly was established soon after the Belfast Agreement, or Good Friday Agreement, in 1998. You need to buy a TV license if there are no TVs in your house but you watch TV programs on your mobile phone. True or false? True. You must pay for a license to watch TV through any medium. In year 1066, William the Conqueror invaded England in which battle? Battle of Britain, Battle of Hastings, Battle of Agincourt, Battle of Culloden. Battle of Hastings. In 1066, an invasion led by William, the Duke of Normandy, in what is now northern France, defeated Harold, the Saxon King of England, at the Battle of Hastings. Harold was killed in the battle. William became King of England and is known as William the Conqueror. The battle is commemorated in a great piece of embroidery, known as the Bayeux Tapestry, which can still be seen in France today. Where is the cenotaph located? Whitehall, Wiltshire, Dorset, Trafalgar Square. Scotland. Robert Burns is a famous Scottish poet. Which of the events is the landing of Allied forces in Normandy? D-Day, the Blitz, the Battle of Britain, the Dunkirk Spirit. D-Day. On the 6th of June 1944, Allied forces landed in Normandy. This event is often referred to as D-Day. Magistrates and Justices of the Peace, JPs, are members of what? Police force, ruling party, local community, law society. Local community. Magistrates and Justices of the Peace, JPs, are members of the local community. In England, Wales, and Scotland they usually work unpaid and do not need legal qualifications. They receive training to do the job and are supported by a legal advisor. Who is a patron saint of Scotland? St. Patrick, St. Andrew, St. David, St. George. St. Andrew. England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland each have a national saint, called a patron saint. Each saint has a special day. The 1st of March, St. David's Day, Wales. The 17th of March, St. Patrick's Day, Northern Ireland. The 23rd of April, St. George's Day, England. The 30th of November, St. Andrew's Day, Scotland. How often do PM's questions take place in the Parliament? Every 2 weeks. Every working day. Every month. Every week. Every week. The leader of the opposition leads his or her party in pointing out what they see as the government's failures and weaknesses. One important opportunity to do this is at Prime Minister's Questions, which takes place every week while Parliament is sitting. When did the English settlers first begin to colonize the eastern coast of America? In Elizabeth I's time. In May I's time. In Diana's time. In William I's time. In Elizabeth I's time, English settlers first began to colonize the eastern coast of America. This colonization, particularly by people who disagreed with the religious views of the next 2 kings, greatly increased in the next century. What are 2 responsibilities of members of Parliament, MPs? Represent only those who voted for them. They represent everyone in their constituency. Appoint the Prime Minister, PM. Scrutinize and comment on what the government is doing. They represent everyone in their constituency and scrutinize and comment on what the government is doing. MPs have a number of different responsibilities. They represent everyone in their constituency, help to create new laws, scrutinize and comment on what the government is doing, debate important national issues. What is the national flower of Northern Ireland? A thistle. A lily. A rose. A shamrock. A shamrock is the national flower of Northern Ireland. What is the name of the building where the Northern Irish Assembly meets? Senedd. Holyrood. Stormont. Westminster. Stormont. In Northern Ireland, elected members, known as MLAs, meet in the Northern Ireland Assembly at Stormont, in Belfast. When did the Romans successfully invade Britain? 43 AD. 63 AD. 63 BC. 55 BC. (43 AD). Julius Caesar led a Roman invasion of Britain in 55 BC. This was unsuccessful, and for nearly 100 years Britain remained separate from the Roman Empire. In AD 43 the Emperor Claudius led the Roman army in a new invasion. This time, there was resistance from some of the British tribes, but the Romans were successful in occupying almost all of Britain. Which one of these countries in the UK requires you to complete your own registration form to get entitled to vote? Northern Ireland. England. Wales. Scotland. Northern Ireland. In Northern Ireland a different system operates. This is called individual registration, and all those entitled to vote must complete their own registration form. Once registered, people stay on the register provided their personal details do not change. Where did many of the Vikings settle after they got defeated? Danelaw, Dorset, Lancashire, Pale. Danelaw. The Anglo-Saxon kingdoms in England united under King Alfred the Great, who defeated the Vikings. Many of the Viking invaders stayed in Britain, especially in the east and north of England, in an area known as the Danelaw. Many places names there, such as Grimsby and Scunthorpe, come from the Viking languages. Which house won the War of the Roses? The House of York, the House of Commons, the House of Lords, the House of Lancaster. House of Lancaster. The war ended with the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485. King Richard III of the House of York was killed in the battle, and Henry Tudor, the leader of the House of Lancaster, became King Henry VII. What is the British Constitution often described as? Unwritten, written down, documented, preserved. Unwritten. The British Constitution is not written down in any single document, and therefore it is described as unwritten. This is mainly because the UK, unlike America or France, has never had a revolution which led permanently to a totally new system of government. When was the first public film shown in the UK? In 1904. In 1899. In 1902. In 1896. In 1896. Films were first shown publicly in the UK in 1896, and film screenings very quickly became popular. From the beginning, filmmakers became famous for clever special effects, and this continues to be an area of British expertise. What was the Black Death? A form of plague. Lack of food. A battle. Lack of water. In 1348, a disease, probably a form of plague, came to Britain. This was known as the Black Death. 1/3 of the population of England died, and a similar proportion in Scotland and Wales. Which one of the following is the most famous play written by Shakespeare? Under Milk Wood. A Midsummer Night's Dream. The Jungle Book. The Canterbury Tales. A Midsummer Night's Dream. Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon, England. He was a playwright and actor and wrote many poems and plays. His most famous plays include A Midsummer Night's Dream, Hamlet, Macbeth, and Romeo and Juliet. What information about you is asked at the polling station? Your name and telephone number. Your name and age. Your name, contact details, and age. Your name and address. Your name and address. When you arrive at the polling station, the staff will ask for your name and address. In Northern Ireland, you will also have to show photographic identification. People living in the UK must pay tax on which of the following two? Income from property, savings and dividends. Student loans. Wages from paid employment. Payday loans. Income from property, savings and dividends. And wages from paid employment. People in the UK have to pay tax on their income, which includes wages from paid employment, profits from self-employment, taxable benefits, pensions, income from property, savings, and dividends. Who sat in the House of Commons in the Middle Ages? Knights. The nobility. Great landowners. Bishops. Knights. In the Middle Ages, the nobility, great landowners, and bishops sat in the House of Lords. Knights, who were usually smaller landowners, and wealthy people from towns and cities were elected to sit in the House of Commons. What system can be used to complete a tax return if you are self-employed? Self-checkout. Self-assessment. Pay as you earn. National insurance contribution. Self-assessment. For most people, the right amount of income tax is automatically taken from their income from employment by their employer and paid directly to Revenue Customs, HMRC, the government department that collects taxes. This system is called pay as you earn, pay. If you are self-employed, you need to pay your own tax through a system called self-assessment, which includes completing a tax return. Where can you find crown jewels? Queen's House in Greenwich. The National Museum. The Buckingham Palace. The Tower of London. The Tower of London was first built by William the Conqueror after he became king in 1066. Tours are given by the yeoman warders, also known as beefeaters, who tell visitors about the building's history. People can also see the crown jewels there. What is the shadow cabinet? The cabinet that is in trouble. Senior members of the main opposition party who shadow government minister in different departments. The cabinet where the Prime Minister had to resign. The name of the office of the leader of the opposition in the Parliament. Senior members of the main opposition party who shadow government minister in different departments. The leader of the opposition leads his or her party in pointing out what they see as the government's failures and weaknesses. The leader of the opposition also appoints senior opposition MPs to be shadow ministers. They form the shadow cabinet and their role is to challenge the government and put forward alternative policies. What did Sir Frank Whittle invent in the 1930s? Telephone. Jet engine. Computer. Ballpoint pen. The jet engine was developed in Britain in the 1930s by Sir Frank Whittle, 1907–96, a British Royal Air Force engineer officer. What were the refugees that came from France between 1680 and 1720 called? Huguenots. Quakers. Chartists. Sikhs. Between 1680 and 1720, many refugees called Huguenots came from France. They were Protestants and had been persecuted for their religion. Why was Mary known as Bloody Mary? She persecuted Protestants. She put her sister in prison. She killed her father. She fought in numerous battles. Mary was a devout Catholic and persecuted Protestants. What can the Scottish Parliament do? May pass legislation on anything not specifically reserved to the UK Parliament. May pass laws on foreign and defence affairs. May pass laws on general economic policy. May pass laws on anything in Scotland. May pass legislation on anything not specifically reserved to the UK Parliament. The Scottish Parliament can pass laws for Scotland on all matters which are not specifically reserved to the UK Parliament. The matters on which the Scottish Parliament can legislate include civil and criminal law, health, education, planning, and additional tax-raising powers. What language did the Iron Age people speak? Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, English, Viking. Celtic. Their language was part of the Celtic language family. Huge congratulations on completing these top 100 challenging questions and answers. That's a fantastic achievement. Party popper. Remember, to pass the real life in the UK test, you'll need at least 75% correct. If you've made it through every question with us today, you're already ahead of many other test takers and well on your way to success. You've just taken another big step in understanding life in the UK. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment with your thoughts or questions, and most importantly, subscribe to Teddy Bear's Storytime for more cozy, clear, and complete guides to the life in the UK test. We've got plenty more chapters to come, so hit that notification bell and join us on the next part of your journey. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.